Okay, we'll start with this. In light of this weekend's Super Bantamweight action, there's another Super Bantamweight title fight set to go down in April, featuring Yamileth Mercado versus world title challenger Linda Lecca. It's the same Linda Lecca that fought Sky Nicholson up there at featherweight. She has since moved down in weight, down to Super Bantam. She's going to be facing Yami Mercado on the 27th of April. And what is a Zanfer promotion? Zanfer Promotions, a very well-to-do promotional outfit south of the border that promotes quite a few familiar faces in Mexican boxing. Gallo Estrada, Emmanuel Navarrete, Jaime Munguia, Yamileth Mercado. Is going to be facing Linda Lecca. Linda sports a professional record of 16 wins with 7 losses, 2 draws, 3 knockouts, having been knocked out once in 25 professional bouts, just once. Years ago at the hands of Argentinia's multi-weight champion, Daniela Bermudez, a strong puncher. Yami Mercado, she sports a professional record of 22 wins with 3 losses, no draws, 5 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 25 professional bouts. Very young, the youngest of all the champions at 122 pounds. Oddly enough, she's got the deepest resume of all of them and has been a champion longer than all of them. Yami Mercado last saw action in August of last year. She fought 2 times last year and 2 times the year before that. 2 times the year before that. So she's been keeping busy. She's been active. But there was enough time left last year that she could have squeezed in another fight between August and December. There was time and opportunity. The world titles at this weight are split 4 ways between 4 fighters, 4 separate champions. That if what Yami Mercado wanted last year was a unification match, I think she could have had one. Then what's the story? Because Yami Mercado fighting Linda Lecca in what is a keep busy fight is really no news at all. So what's the real story here? Well, the real story, the real news, is that this Linda Lecca fight is just a prelude, an appetizer to what is a bigger fight with Ramla Ali on a bigger show. Inside intel suggests that what the people at Matchroom want is for Yami to defend her title against their girl, Ramla Ali, on the undercard of the upcoming Bam Rodriguez versus Gallo Estrada fight. Rumor has it that they want this fight to be the co-main event. That card is set to go down in June, whereas Yami's next fight is set to go down later on this month, towards the end of it. Given that Yami has not seen action since August of last year, it would have been less than ideal for her to go straight into a Ramla Ali fight after that duration of time without a keep busy fight in between, a maintenance fight to shake off the ring rust, and that's what she's going to be doing later on this month. That barring illness, injury, or unforeseen circumstances, so long as Yami beats Linda Lecca, she's rumored to be facing Ramla Ali right after that in June. Wait, so she took the fight? It's just what I was told. That Matchroom has made several attempts, several offers to Yami Mercado, each one bigger than the last, in an effort to get her to defend her title against Ramla Ali, and she finally decided to do it. In truth, she's not the only Matchroom fighter that was looking for a fight with Yami. Erica Cruz, reigning WBA champion, she wanted to fight Yami too. And if Yami has so decided to fight Ramla instead of Erica in a unification match, it's likely because, well, Ramla got knocked out 2 fights ago by a common opponent between them. A common opponent in Julissa Guzman. To Yami, if she has to choose between fighting Ramla and fighting Erica, Ramla would seem the more beatable fighter of the two. Thus, that's the direction that she's going. So now, as long as she makes it past Linda Lecca, barring illness, injury, or unforeseen circumstances, she's set to face Ramla in June as the co-main event to the main event Bam Rodriguez versus Gallo Estrada. And let's hope that she makes it through the Linda Lecca fight. I think she can.
She can win a points decision.
It's cuts you have to worry about. It's potential injuries in the training camp or in the fight. That's really what you have to worry about, because I think Yami can beat Linda. She can beat her handily. She's beat better fighters than Linda.
And that's what the rumor mill is spinning at this time.
Men's welterweight division on the heels of the big news, the big announcement that Jaron Ennis has signed to Matchroom. Jaron Ennis said, "I'm excited for this partnership with Eddie Hearn, Matchroom, and DAZN. I can't wait to continue making my mark and becoming undisputed world champion." Undisputed in the men's welterweight division. Eddie Hearn has revealed that Jaron Boots Ennis' next fight will be the ordered mandatory defense of his IBF welterweight world title versus Cody Crowley. Hearn has said they want this to be a homecoming fight for Boots in Philadelphia in June or July.
Which we've talked about, and what's the probability that they can get Cody Crowley to walk away from that Sissoko fight, that WBC eliminator, for this fight with Boots?
That fight with Sissoko is just an eliminator, whereas this fight with Boots is for a full world title, though ultimately, whatever pays better, I think, is what will determine what Cody Crowley does. Which fight pays out more money? The announcement is being received with mixed reviews. Some are excited, while some are skeptical.
What?
Veteran boxing scribe Dan Canobio of CompuBox said, "Not many big matchroom fights for Boots at 147. Not many at 147 at all, besides Terrence Crawford, who is set to be leaving 147, which doesn't seem likely anyway. Cross-promotional fights? Move to 154? Conor Benn?"
There is some truth to what Dan is suggesting, that at Matchroom, there are not big names there for Boots at 147. The thing is, there are no big names anywhere at 147. Not at Matchroom, not at the PBC, not anywhere.
All the big names, or what were the big names at welterweight, have since moved on. Sean Portier retired, Keith Thurman's out injured again, Terrence is moving up, Errol's in limbo.
Danny Garcia's right there with him.
So then what's everybody so excited about? What is so exciting about Jaron Ennis crossing over from PBC over to Matchroom when there are no big names left at 147?
None.
There are none overall. What's all the hubbub about?
Activity.
If nothing else, Matchroom can keep Jaron Ennis active, keep him busy, keep him fighting, more so than the PBC can. And Bozy Ennis, Jaron Ennis' father, said as much. He said that's always the main thing, activity. The busier you are, the sharper you'll be. At this time, I think it's the right place because Matchroom, they move in fighters. It seems like every other week they've got a show going on, so that's where we want to be. How many times has Andy Cruz fought already this year? Getting ready to fight again, so that's where you've got to be, and that's what I've been saying.
That in the absence of big names at welterweight, activity for Boots would be the next best thing. Getting out there, getting active, and staying busy.
Staying relevant. That's how Gennady Golovkin rose to fame years ago. When none of the big names at or around his weight wanted to give him the time of day, he chose to keep busy, keep active with whoever was willing to share the ring with him. And after a while, his fame grew for how he was brutalizing his opponents, whoever they were.
The same could happen with Boots. No, there are not a lot of big names left at welterweight. But so long as he's keeping active,
he can build on his profile that way. He himself is saying he wants to become undisputed champion. He wants to become undisputed at welterweight. The problem is that two of the guys that he might need to go through in order to achieve that are back there at the PBC.
They're still on PBC Island.
Stanionis, who's in line to become WBA champion, and Mario Barrios, who's in line to become WBC champion. Some interesting insights from the good people over there at Fight Hook News. Fight Hook says, in the Boots aftermath, Mario Barrios and Stanionis will be positioned as future opponents as both stay busy and await Crawford to vacate the titles to become full champions. Boots will not get the opportunity against them. Instead, they will unify against each other.
They might.
That's reality. But that doesn't rule out the possibility that Boots might still be able to get them in the ring down the line. Just because they're still with the PBC, just because they're still with them now, doesn't mean they'll still be with them later. Depending on what the situation is, in order to get some fight dates and make some money, they might jump ship too. Several fighters already have.
Both guys are set to box on the undercard of Canelo Alvarez's next fight.
Provided they stay in the winner's bracket and maintain their positions and stay in line to become champions themselves, the question you then have to ask is, how long would it take the PBC to make a fight between them? A unification match, potentially, because that's what Fight Hook News is suggesting.
Yes.
That rather than Barrios fight Boots or Stanionis fight Boots, they might fight each other.
Well, okay, but how long would it take the PBC to make it? Because they spent months trying to make a Danny Garcia versus Lara fight, and it didn't happen.
You know, I'm just bouncing ideas around. I'm just brainstorming that if it takes too long, it starts to take too long. Resources are scarce. There's not a lot going on. These guys got bills to pay just like the rest of us. They're not going to wait around forever. So in a situation like that, if Matchroom were to make them a generous offer to cross over and fight Boots, they might take it.
It's another way to look at it.
Not dismissing what Fight Hook News is suggesting. I'm only saying there's more ways it could break down, and that's just one. All the while, Jaron Ennis will be afforded the opportunity to keep busy, and that's the real opportunity here, the real virtue, that if nothing else, Matchroom has fight dates, plenty of them, in America, in the United Kingdom, perhaps even in Australia and Saudi, that more doors open.
Boots' last fight was way back there in the summer of last year.
We're coming up on the summer of this one, and that's less than ideal for a young fighter, now a young champion, who doesn't have a buzz yet, who is not yet a draw.
How the hell is he supposed to become one on a schedule like that?
Thus, you can understand what all the hullabaloo and excitement is really all about, that if nothing else, this fighter will get to fight more often.
And Eddie?
This was a big acquisition for Eddie Hearn, an opportunity to stick it to his detractors, the ones who said that he didn't know what he was doing in America, DAZN wouldn't last, and he should go back to the UK.
All these guys wanted Boots. The PBC, Top Rank, Matchroom.
Though in the end, he decided to go to Matchroom. He didn't go with one of them, he decided to go with him. So maybe Lil Eddie, maybe Fast Eddie, knows what he's doing after all. I think that will make Eddie Hearn a tad bit more invested in Boots, to really stick it to those guys by turning him into a draw.
They wanted that opportunity.
But he got it, and I think he's going to make the most of it. In men's heavyweight news, Bob Arum expresses concern over Tyson Fury, saying,
I think Fury and Usyk will be a great fight. It's definitely a historic fight. I've always felt like Fury was a very big favorite because of his size and his boxing ability. It's gonna be too much for Usyk. I'm very disturbed by the way Tyson Fury looked in his last fight in Riyadh against Ngannou. I was there. I just thought he looked terrible. He didn't actually train as hard for that fight. When we all get older, we don't do our jobs as well as we did when we were younger, physically. Is that what we're seeing based on the Ngannou fight? Or he wasn't ready? That's what we'll find out on May 18th.
So where before, Bob Arum viewed Tyson Fury as the favorite, going into an Usyk fight based on the Ngannou performance, he is now doubling back on those assertions, and he is not the only one.
I used to think Fury is going to win that fight, but after Fury's performance with Ngannou, I'm not so sure. I kind of come. Now I would say maybe 50-50, but I used to think Fury, so I rate Usyk a little higher now.
Tyson Fury was asked if becoming undisputed is motivation for him in the Usyk fight, and he said, if it was belts that drive me, I'd go to Modelan and buy 50 belts. It's the money that drives me, not the belts. I've been very open in my whole career telling you all, it's about the money, the coins, and I'll stand by it today. So for me to say you all, oh, I want to win 20 belts, it's not about the money, it ain't true, is it?
Might not be, but that's literally what you said before. Literally.
It's never been about money. It's never been about money. It's never been about money. I'm not a money person. I drive around in a 07 Passat on a 56 plate diesel. I don't care. I don't care what I've got. It's never been about money to me. It's never been about money to me. It's never been about money to me.
You'd be hard-pressed to find someone who contradicts themselves as much, as often as Tyson Fury. So which one is it? Is it all about the money or not about money at all? I think it's about the money.
If I had to guess,
He's never been keen on facing Alexander Usyk, and I hardly think Tyson Fury will stand for ceremony. He doesn't care about the belts. That's why he gave them up so easily the first time he won them. And the only reason he's here, the only reason he's fighting this guy, who he never really wanted to fight, is for the money. It's his only motivation.
that matters.
Said I'm gonna go for Usyk to knock me out in the first round. Fuck it.
What?
He says he expects to fight Anthony Joshua twice after his 2 fights with Alexander Usyk, assuming there are 2 fights with Alexander Usyk. I'm of the opinion there might not be. Depending on whether or not Usyk beats him and how he beats him, that would determine whether or not there even is a second fight, a rematch.
If the fight is too one-sided, where Fury was never in it,
Because Usyk was too hard to target, too mobile, too tricky, too many counters, too hard to keep up with, and if exhaustion starts to set in, and Usyk by some chance takes him out, not through strength of arms, not because he's so strong, but because Fury's so tired.
he's gonna want a rematch.
I don't often believe things that Tyson Fury says, mostly because most of what he says is in opposition of what else he says. So I don't often believe him, but I do believe him here. I do believe him now when he says the only thing motivating him is the money.
Not the belts.
I believe him. So if by some chance he were to lose his, I don't really think he'd care all that much. I don't really think he'd be all that hard-pressed to try to win it back, because there's another, even bigger money fight out there for him in Anthony Joshua. If all that's motivating you to fight Usyk is the money, you might have that same motivation to skip an Usyk rematch and go straight for Joshua. Go straight for the Joshua fights, because those are still bigger money fights than an Usyk rematch, than an Usyk fight.
I don't think he's motivated.
Although most will point to his physical condition going into this Usyk fight, as opposed to how he looked last year going into the Ngannou fight, as a sign that he is motivated. And he is taking this assignment seriously, at least more seriously than the Ngannou fight, which I don't think he took seriously at all.
That's just cosmetic, though.
Because he lost some weight. That's nice. Because he lost some weight. Do you really think he wants to do this, though? Do you really think he wants to be here?
I don't.
He gets paid either way. All the money he stands to make from the Usyk fight, he makes whether he wins or loses.
All the money he stands to make in a Joshua fight, he makes whether he wins or loses.
I don't actually think he's motivated. I think it's the way he said, and he's just here for the money.
Just the money.
It's not about legacy. It's not about belts. It's not about titles. I don't even know if it's about bragging rights anymore. You think that I'm underestimating him, but Bob Arum is the one who said he was concerned. Alen Babic said that now he's not so sure. Where at first he thought Fury would win,
Now he's not so sure.
I don't think he's motivated. I think he's just going through the motions, keeping up appearances and saying things you expect him to say long enough for him to get paid.